We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask everybody to please mute, turn off your electronic devices. I'm doing now before I get caught with this phone call. And prior to this, our meeting here tonight, we had an executive session for contractual issues. At this time, we'll move over to roll call.
Okay. Mr. Conti, Mrs. Becker,
Here.
Ms. Haas, Mrs. Moretti,
Here.
Mrs. Polovich,
Here.
Mr. Pollack, Mrs. Rinaldi, Ms. Sarno,
Here.
Mr. Polino.
Here,
5 present.
thank you. This time we'll open the floor to audience comments on any agenda items at this point. Seeing none, we'll move on to superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Polino. Welcome to our agenda meeting and welcome to Allegheny Valley School District, where we are empowering students to a bright future. I have 3 items to share with you this evening. The first item I have to share is a presentation by Mr. Doug Zanger from the Foreman Group, and this relates to the junior senior high school renovation project specific to the lobby and restroom areas. Mr. Zanger, do you want to come on down?
Good evening. Thank you for having me here, giving you this update. So first, this month you'll have pay apps to approve for September's work, just letting you know that. Those are for the lobby projects. We don't have anything new on the masonry project for pay apps. So looking at the lobby project, progress right now, substantial completion for the interior so that the lobby was available for use was going to be November 20th, excuse me. We've had 2 impacts. One was the RTU, which really isn't affecting the occupancy of the lobby, but that's affecting the overall substantial completion. But we've recently come across a problem where the storefront entrance and the columns supporting it are in very poor shape. And so we have proposed to you a change order, and it's substantial, but a change order to repair those columns and all the work associated with that to get it back into structurally sound condition while maintaining the safety of the students and the emergency egress through what will have to be put in as a temporary wall to provide a temporary outside wall while that work is being done. And this is about a 3-week impact on that November 20th date, 3 weeks from when they're approved to proceed. So, for example, if we were to approve them tonight, which I don't know that you're able to, but if you were, that would be from November 20th to December 10th, as we're looking at that. So it's from when they're approved to proceed, it's 3 weeks of impacted time. And also that impact takes into consideration ceiling work, which is something that's going to have to pause. They're going to do so much and then stop and then proceed again after that when the wall's down. Now, on the good side, the work that's progressed so far, overall from the pay apps, we're at 45% complete, almost halfway done. And the work they've done for the restrooms that are being constructed in there, they are framed, the drywall is on, taped, and the finishing is about done, possibly done by now. So that work has progressed. In the bathrooms where there's ceiling, where there's ceramic tile going floor to ceiling, that cement board is up and being taped and ready. So the GC has done about every bit of work he can do in there. He's getting ready to start the ceiling now, starting from the auditorium wall, moving outward. And the ductwork is done as far as all the way to where it goes outside the building. We haven't cut the holes yet for that though, but it's done up to that point. Plumbing is roughed in, inspected. Electrical is roughed in and inspected. So the framing, plumbing, and electrical have all been inspected for their rough-in work. So that's all good to go to close up and continue work. So as we spoke of before, we have the RTU delay, and I'm still being told that as of now, the parts that are needed due to the refrigerant change are still a problem. So we're still looking at a December delivery, which then has bumped the substantial completion for the overall project from January 6th to February 6th. And for change orders, as you all have handouts, but we've got a credit change order for a number of small items, adding and deducting to result in a net credit, $3,374. A proposed change for some sanitary sewer work, $9,700. And then for this storefront structural repairs, just quite involved. That we are looking at, get my sheet up again, $57,410 for the general contractor, and then the electrical for his emergency signs using the cheapest ones possible, and temporary construction, $565 for that 2 signs, wired and powered.
Mr. Zanger, if I could ask a few questions. Could you share with the board and the public, one, how you learned about the deficiency with the beams, the corrective action, and then while the work's happening, if the board elects to do so, what security measures will be in place to keep our staff and students safe while that work's occurring?
First of all, what we found was that when we took this existing storefront down, which has 5 glazed panels and then 2 door panels, 7 sections total. The ones with the doors are still in place, but the other ones, when they were taken down and exposed to columns, we found severe rusting. Both Terry and I looked at this, and we've never seen anything to that degree. One of the columns was actually missing part of the steel, not just the rust, but it was actually missing steel. So the damage is substantial, and it is at risk. It needs to be addressed structurally. It's not something you can put off to the future sometime. Plus, if you did, you'd have to tear apart the storefront to do the repairs.
And when you say at risk of not
Shifting, I wouldn't say we're talking like a massive collapse, but the wall above the storefront would start pushing down. There would be a shifting. The glass would start to break from the pressure. The masonry on top might start shifting, and we don't have another masonry problem. So to prevent problems like this, and ultimately that point where you have to close that, you'd have to close the entrance and then come back and do all the work, dismantle the ceiling, dismantle the storefront, do the work, force it, push it back up, not just short, but actually now jack it back up into position. You know, that gets a lot more expensive involved. So as much as money as it costs now to do it, now is the time to do the work rather than later.
Can you give additional information about once the board decides to act, those beams are removed, the storefront's open, what safety measures are now going to be in place because that's going to be open?
First of all, we're going to leave the storefront in, which currently is functionally securing the building. We're going to leave that in place as long as possible and only take that out when we actually need to, and bit by bit replace those columns. But on the inside of the building, we're going to build a stud wall from floor to roof deck and sheathe it with plywood on the outside. So it'll provide weather protection and security. Put 2 doors on it with panic bars, the exit signs above, like I said, so that we have emergency egress out of there as we intended to have right now, as we've maintained. So for a safety perspective, that'll be in place. And we're looking at probably an overall 4 to 5 weeks of that being in place. So it's a little over a month, and probably come down sooner than that, but I don't want to promise better than we'll be able to do. So that work will be done, safety will be maintained, security maintained, weather protection maintained. Get the work done, get back to having the storefront in place, take that temporary wall out and continue the work.
Thank you.
You mentioned earlier, the first part of the presentation about the heating systems and then the units not having the new gas. Are those units, are you able to install those units from the heating aspect of it and then do the cooling later, or is that not like? a home
It's,
unit sometimes?
yeah, I've been through this before for other reasons. When COVID hit,
Yeah.
I had a pool dehumidification unit project I was doing. And it kind of similar. What manufacturers do is they manufacture the entire unit. It's like your car. They don't deliver your car without a starter and say, we'll come back later and put that starter in for you. It's a complete car. This is a complete unit. And it's components that are not in place because they have to put it all together and test it themselves to make sure it's ready for delivery.
So with that said, I think last month or maybe a little earlier, I asked that they have a contingency plan for the heating of that area. Has that been?
We haven't developed fully the plan, but essentially it's going to be renting electric heaters that work with the power we have available.
Is that safe,
Yes,
the electric heaters?
electric heaters are safe. Propane, which is out there, is not. I mean, it is safe. It's used in construction, but you have hoses and tanks. And there's a lot of effort that goes into it. So propane is not a preferred solution, particularly when it's an open flame and it's enclosed and protected, but it's not a preferred when you have students around.
I just worry if we have an event going on in there in the winter and you have the electric heaters in the area of the lobby that can be used, how do we prevent someone from getting burned by getting too close to those heaters?
We'll have to work on that. I'm not going to just hip shoot with you. But there's ways, if we have to put an egg crate around it, some kind of enclosure. One thing we don't want to do is anchor it to the floor. That's your terrazzo. You don't want to damage that.
Yeah.
But these are going to be units like you would use in your house.
Right.
So they're safe. Like if your furnace went out, these would be something you'd put in your house, and your kids, they bump into it, they turn it, they flip off. They have safeties on it. So it's highly unlikely that someone would get burned unless they really tried. But that'll be one of the conditions and criteria we'll look at and have something in place, have a source available, lined up, right voltage. So we're not bringing a 480 volt 3-phase in here, which we can't plug in.
Thank you.
Dr. Grayson, I know we do have some events coming up. We have National Honor Society at the Marshall Auditorium, and then we do have the fall play, which is kind of like a larger event that was going to happen, I think, the weekend right after our original target end date. I know that Mrs. Mundock and Mr. Levisky were working on various contingency plans, but obviously, it looks like because of this, the project definitely won't be done in time for the play. So I think that's just something to keep in mind. We obviously have to have some, thinking about getting people in and out of the auditorium.
For the National Honor Society induction, what we are using is if you are in the student parking lot and walk up the stairs, there are 2 doors straight ahead that you can enter right in front of the stage. We plan on using that. The bathrooms that are where they are still accessible because that's partitioned off. We probably could do the same for the fall play. It would depend on numbers of how many people we think are coming in. If that's the case, we're going to have to come up with an alternate entry. And Mr. Levisky has been talking to Mr. Zanger. I'm not exactly sure what that will be, but we're mindful of making sure people get in, support their children, support the school, and can use the facilities if they need to, because we don't drink too much water.
Thank you.
Mr. Levisky has been attending the meetings. I have job conferences every Monday.
Great.
And he's there. So he knows as things come up, and he's already been developing, I can't speak for him, but has in his mind a plan, like spoke for National Honor Society, but also for the play if need be.
Great. Thank you.
So we're thinking about that. And if we're to the point where it could be that the ceiling is not finished, we have temporary lighting in or something like that, but it's otherwise ready, we'll have it cleared out and available. So.
Appreciate it.
I do have an update also on the masonry. I've been talking to the masonry contractor, and he's gotten hold of the brick supplier, and they're expecting to deliver the brick. Let's see, by the end of the week, by October 24th. That's 2 weeks away. So they're expecting to have the brick by then. Now, he's given me a schedule, preliminary schedule, but based on that, what he would like to do is do the brick replacement at the kitchen addition and the multi-purpose addition this year. And he thinks he can get it done before December. Might drift into December a little bit. But those two areas, what we have is brick in front of concrete block with insulation in between. Relatively straightforward repair and work. So he wants to get that work done now instead of waiting. And then in the spring, start the classroom addition. And that way he has plenty of time to do that, which he sees going from March through May.
So reversing the original thought of taking care of those egresses first, take care of those other areas because the egresses already have supports in place to protect it.
They're not at risk for safety. And we know what we're getting into the other locations. We're not sure exactly what we're going to get into there. So rather than work ourselves into a corner weather-wise and find we got to do all this kind of framing work and repair work using the contingency we have built in the contract, but get in there, do that work, then do the masonry, we could be into December or January. And that would be in nobody's interest.
How firm is the delivery date? The masonry work seems like this is out of control. Like you'd think getting bricks delivered wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it is.
Well, they have to make them in sufficient quantity, and you don't want to have like some bricks made and take those and then have some other bricks made and then find out they don't match. That's where they make them. They make them in a continuous run so they all look alike. Now, they're not perfectly alike, but they have the same pigments, the same colors, the same patterns in them, so that when you lay them up, they don't look like you took some of those brick and some of those brick when they're supposed to look the same. So we need to get all of the brick.
You didn't look confident when I asked you about the delivery date.
He was told he would have them in a week or so, by the 20th, give or take. So I'm saying the 24th. He was told, and he's still told me, I am only passing on that information. I'm not talking to the brick manufacturer directly.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, yes. I'd like to go back to the change order. The 60,000, it's like a sticker shock to me. I've got to say that. So is the erosion of those columns like a water problem in that area?
Not a water problem, like water coming up from the bottom.
Yeah,
It's just that over the years, I think water has seeped, even though it was caulked, water has seeped under that column cover. And you could see even in pictures, each one of the old 2x that were used for the storefront to fasten to were eaten by termites. So there was a pathway for the water to get in there and start that rust and get the wood moist. And then for the critters to find a way up into there and eat each one of them. So to protect against that in the future, one, we are going to put epoxy on the bottom of the column from the base plate up, about this far, so the rust and the water doesn't migrate. The wood we're putting in is treated, which protects against the moisture. And I believe, I'm not going to vouch for this, but I believe it discourages, if not resists, the insects. I'm not sure about resisting, but it's a treatment that helps against that as well. So we should not see that kind of damage again. But that's when was that built? I think about 50 years ago. I'm not sure. 70, so that's around 55 years. So granted, it's been 55 years. That's not as bad as it could be. But when we put it in again, we're to make sure that that's protected against moisture. caulk better on the outside. But then that's also gonna have to be a maintenance thing. And with all sealants, they deteriorate. They start to separate, they pull apart. So maybe in 5 years, that has to be peeled off and redone.
So we have an exterminator that comes. I don't know how often the exterminator comes, but I'm surprised to hear that we had termites eating the wood when we have an exterminator come.
Well, that damage, I don't know if that was done 2 years ago or 20 years ago. It's, once it's done, you can't tell how soon unless you find the critters in there.
Oh, you didn't find critters? Okay.
No trails, no debris, no little dust piles, no evidence of activity.
Okay, that's good to hear.
So it's old news. And there was nowhere for them to go, nothing else to eat. They went up, they hit masonry and steel. So they had nowhere to go. They probably went back down underground, crawled through the gravel and wherever they went to after that. So,
Well, it's good to know that it is being fixed
Yes.
and it's going to be done properly.
Yeah.
It's,
In terms
It
of
makes it-
preventing future issues, I mean, when we're looking at option 1 versus option 2 and a difference of like $700 or something, like, or 1,000, I guess, like 1,100. Yeah. Like, I mean, let's just get it done.
and
Do
the,
it
and the
good, you
difference
know?
between the two options, at each option 2 is at each column cutting out a block of concrete. And you're going to see little saw cuts because the saw is round. So you're going to see little marks. But more importantly, that storefront partially sits on the concrete. And if you ever do any repairs for the Omni Stone, that piece of concrete in front of the storefront, if you ever want to do any improvements or repairs or whatever to that, we're going to put a new strip of concrete all the way across the storefront in front of it. And that concrete will be underneath, finished properly, and the storefront set on it. So you can tear off that old concrete without disturbing the storefront. So otherwise, you'd have to be chipping out concrete underneath it, and trying to work it back underneath later. So I think it'd be better off. And for $1,100,
Yeah, definitely.
and we're down not 60,000,
Okay.
57,410.
Okay. It's still big.
Yeah, no, it's still a big number.
It's still
It
big.
is still bothersomely
I
big.
was saving that whopping 3,300 the other day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. All right, moving along. This is the time of the year where I share proposed goals. My proposed goals, I did send a draft to all the board members. You have copies in front of you. If you could read through those kindly and give me any feedback, I would like to take a few minutes and review these. It will not be overly long. Your perspective, your feedback will help make these goals much better and stronger. I do base my goals off of the goals of our administrative team so that we are all working in the same direction. So I'll take a little bit of time and go through these. It's on this handout with the AV that was at your seats. So there are 3 goals that I've outlined. Goal number 1 is a continuation of last year's goal, which was to formalize a 3-year plan to improve student attendance. We are now in year 2. Building on the progress made in year 1, our goal for this year is to expand our efforts and integrate these initiatives into our school culture. We will focus on 2 key areas: deepening support for habitually truant students and broadening the scope of our building-wide attendance incentives. There are 3 specific considerations, one of which the board took action and hired a school social worker who serves as an attendance officer. She serves as the point for attendance and works under Dr. Holler, Pupil Services. Number 2, habitually truant students. We've done things such as adding QR codes to different advertisements and paperwork and screensavers that we have so parents can submit excuses easier. Teachers calling students' families. Better parent education on truancy. Initiating a mentor program in 7th grade. Continue intervention meetings that we've been having for quite some time now. Those were increased significantly last year. And working closely with the magistrate to cite students and families for truancy when appropriate. If we send students or their family to truancy hearings, we want to make sure that we've taken all the steps necessary to assist and promote attendance with those kiddos and their families. And then building-wide attendance. These targets, we do not have last year's results yet, but the overall attendance rate for ACME, we want to go up from 80% last year to 90%. And at the junior, senior high school, we want to go up from 70% to 80%. Those have not been released yet, so I don't know specifically if we hit the target or not for last year, which makes these goals even more challenging. Goal number 2, form an improvement model for student progress with English language arts and mathematics skills at the junior, senior high school to initiate MTSS. We have MTSS in the elementary school. We are looking at getting MTSS into grades K through 2 in the general education program specific to mathematics. The other areas are SMART goal and improvement science models for professional development to determine progress and monitor our progress. So now your administrators, school leaders are making goals more quantitative in nature so that we can gauge our progress. MTSS at the junior, senior high school, we want 100% of our 7th grade students to be assigned to an intervention and enrichment time for a 9-week period. If you recall, last year, Mr. Levisky and Ms. Gibbon created a dynamo time. We want to expand that dynamo time, and we currently do have kids assigned there. We want the work they're doing during that time data-driven and specific to student needs. We will improve English language arts results in 7th and 8th grade through an implementation of Tier 1 focused and tested classrooms. And overall, we aim to move 6 students from basic to proficient in each grade level. Again, that's data-driven. Goal number 3 relates more to our facilities. Again, my goals I base on everyone else's goals. We have many capital projects going on. So I'm going to have that as goal 3 to achieve 95% of planned capital project completion for the 25-26 school year. There are a variety of items listed there. Does anyone have any questions for me or suggestions? And if you don't at this time, I encourage you to please send me an email or give me a phone call for any way to improve these. Any questions at this time from the group? Mrs. Ecker, I'm sorry.
How do you come up with the aim to move 6 students from basic to proficient?
How was that number?
Yeah, why 6? I was just curious. Where did 6 come from?
Mr. Levisky based it on the number in a classroom. So 6 students, I believe, gets us about 10 to 15% of a class. So he was looking to move that group of students. It's also based on the number of kids that are falling into the basic category of below basic, basic, proficient, advanced. So the basic kids at times are on the verge of becoming proficient with a little additional assistance. I would say that for the most part, it was an arbitrary number, looking at a percentage that we could at least sink our teeth into and monitor and say, okay, did we move these students from one category to the next, moving them upward?
Are we going to settle for 6 then? Like if you get 6, you're going to say, okay, that's enough?
Why are you saying we're settling?
I don't know, just the number.
Asking if they're only shooting for 6 kids.
Oh,
You know.
no, we're,
It's
yeah.
just a goal.
It was
You're,
just a-
you're still putting out the effort to get everybody to improve, but we
Right.
have, the state gives us certain numbers where we have to improve every year. So you have to start somewhere. I mean, ideally it's 100%, but also you're going to have kids that are already at the top and can't improve anymore. So you focus on what you call the bubble kids
Yeah.
typically.
I just think that's such a low percentage, like if, like I understand our classes are small, you take there, about 25 kids per class.
I
or
was just
instead of
curious.
25. Yeah.
I'm hoping it will be more.
Yeah, our aim is to have everyone there.
Right.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
really good.
But in terms of measuring our goals to see if we're being successful or not, if we put 100%,
You won't mean,
there's no school that I'm aware of that have 100% of their
that'd be
students proficient.
is there also like from below basic to basic? Is there a percentage or anything there to move kids from below basic to basic?
All of those are in place. This is the one specifically that's
Okay.
being measured and accounted for. course. So yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And from
Thank
proficient to advanced. So
Right.
with seventh grade specifically, that's why it's important when kids are assigned to that time that it's based on their specific needs, and it's not always intervention. So at the elementary school, that MTSS time is called enrichment and intervention. So we want to have a blend of both. There are certain students who need more intervention. Although there are things that they also can have enriched for them. There are also other kids who may need a little more enrichment than intervention. It just depends on their specific needs. That's why it's really important to dig down into that data and specifically address those lessons during that time to students' needs.
Probably
Thank you.
would have been more appropriate to give the percentage rather than the number of kids that hit the percentage increase that he was shooting for.
We could,
Now, I'm just saying that, you know, it just seems like a small number, but it's a percentage of the students that they're shooting for is the way I understand it.
Yeah, somebody not knowing how many kids are in the class, you might think there's 100 kids here, 6,
Right. But that's okay.
we can, that's why I share, because I want to make it, I want someone who may not be familiar with this to be more comfortable with it. So percentages work better. If you have additional questions, please ask. This is not a final submission. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of ask some further questions into the multi-tiered system. So we started that a couple of years ago, 3 years ago in the elementary school. And so they're targeting, and because there's a lot of things online about student data being collected, I was kind of questioning what data is actually being put in here. And Mrs. Vecchio assured me that in this school, they are really putting more academics in here where behavioral things are not, which I was very happy to hear that. But so if we're starting this at the elementary level now for 3 years, then we're hopefully going to look forward to some of these below average or basic, that they would be increasing at those 7th grade
Yes,
levels. So we're
yes.
hoping to see some improvement here that, like, let's really start looking for some changes, So, but I just wanted to kind of bring up like that data, the data and data collection. And I just think moving into a lot of this, that we really do need to be aware of personal student data and privacy and the changes that are being taken place. And, companies that do collect that data, whether it's identified or de-identified, material, but just so we kind of talk about it and know that it's there and people are aware, that you're not really putting that, but there are state data things that we have to comply to that go to the state as far as those issues. So,
that are reported directly to the state. Excuse me. We do MTSS. The data itself stays in-house. It's us looking as a team with the teachers at that data. And it stays on our personal spreadsheets or in our personal paperwork. It's not something that we publish anywhere or send to the state. It's us looking at the data that's been collected or worked with the students. We're looking for progress. This is intervention working for everyone. This is something everyone needs. We need it in a smaller group. This is something where our students need pulled out and worked with specialists. This is something that, we looked at that K through 2. You'll see it again in the Title I plan where it is, we need more tactile in order to make a true intervention. The students have lost their tactile awareness and being able to use it as manipulatives to understand what they're learning. So we do look intensely, but we don't report any of that data over to the state. It stays in. Thank you.
good,
Thanks,
great.
Ms. Beck. Thanks, Ms. Ecker. Appreciate it. The last item I have, I want to give an update on clubs. Mr. Levisky and Ms. Gibbon are not here this evening. There were 4 different athletic events, and our athletic director is currently out of the district, so that they are not here. But I did want to share an update, is that how the club process works is that first we see who's interested in sponsoring a club, and then there are signups. For some of the clubs, so say, for example, if I created the the superintendent's club, which was very popular last year. If I created that and no one signed up, even though I was approved to have the club, I don't have any participants. I'm not getting paid for that. I don't have anyone. However, there might be clubs like Yearbook where the sponsor's taking pictures and writing things, even though it's not what we would want. In those instances, we might pay that person. In any event, it's driven by the people that sign up. So the people that are here to be approved, there's no guarantee that club will exist. What guarantees the club's existence is people signing up for it and participating in that club, or the sponsor offering something that could possibly meet the needs of that group by themselves. And the example of the Yearbook, which was a poor one, would be an example of that. So we will get you the numbers. These are the last batch that I believe are on the agenda this month to be approved. Once we have that, then we'll get signups and we'll be able to give you some more information. Also, if you're a club sponsor and you don't do anything, you don't get paid. It's that simple. So there is a process that there's paperwork that's turned into Mrs. Noel at the end of the year, and that's how we determine who gets paid or not. So this is just saying you're allowed to have the club. If you do it and you do it well, then we will pay you the stipend for it. All right, thank you. I'd like to.
Can I clarify that? So just to clarify, a student has to be the one to initiate the club, right? A student has to be, the student has to, it's a student who has to say, can we have this club? Or can an adult say, hey, I'd like to do this club at your school? And then,
It's twofold. To create a club,
Yeah.
a student would approach someone and say, I'd like to have this club.
okay,
There is a list of club sponsors we already have. A teacher can say, I want to be the sponsor of this club.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? You're looking at me.
yeah,
like-
well, can an adult say, I'd like to have, a handwriting club or something and see if there's,
There's a process to follow. They
you
could
can
do
do
that.
that?
They would,
Anybody can,
part of that process would be, we talk to some kids that are interested.
yeah, and get them to say, hey, we want to
Right.
initiate. So the kids should initiate.
They should be a part of it. Yes.
Okay,
So
and then anything going on in the school, posters, things that are hanging, the students are supposed to initiate all that.
correct. Those are the students' clubs. They are not the teachers'
Right.
clubs.
Teachers are not to be hanging stuff. Okay,
No.
all right. Just confirming that.
Certainly. Thank you. Let's move on the agenda. Item number 5, bills and payments. That's a placeholder for our voting meeting. And now I'll turn things over to our Director of Finance and Operations, Dr. Raj Gopal, for consent, agenda operations, finance.
Thank you, Dr. Gracie. The consent agenda relates to minutes from September, and 6.3, the voting meeting minutes will be tweaked to reflect an abstention, as well as the reason why that abstention happened. Board docs system is pretty technical. If you abstain, it records all items as abstentions. So the tweaked voting meeting minutes will reflect what actually the intent of that was. Any questions? Okay, let's move to operations and finance. There was a finance committee meeting held earlier tonight where we did discuss that there's no state or federal budget at this time. We also referenced a policy committee meeting that addressed advertising in athletic fields, and we've got an extensive presentation later tonight about that topic. Also, there was a food service audit, and policy committee members agreed to tweak the procurement policy for food service purposes, that audit, because based upon the request of that auditor. Okay, updates tonight. You already heard from the architect about the front lobby change orders. There's also some pay apps on the agenda tonight for work already completed. So at this time, Mr. Donnelly, do you have updates for food service?
Everything in our department's really running smoothly so far, but one of the things on our radar is, of course, the government shutdown. As the food service department does rely on state and federal reimbursements and other resources. We've been assured by both those groups that there will be no interruption of either resources or payments and reimbursements, and we're following it very closely, and we'll take care of everything.
Nice work.
That was
Thank
basically the main report. Thank you.
Okay, next is facilities update from Mr. Zangrali.
I'm gonna pass on rocks to Mr. Plato. He can pass these around. But we have an issue with our hot water boiler, our cafeteria. And it was installed, I think, about 8 or 9 years ago, and that's what we're pulling out of our copper pipes and the heat exchanger. So we're looking to probably have to replace the boiler for the hot water, and they're suggesting we put a water softener system in because Springdale's waters serve off at the calcium and the build up 2-inch copper pipe was much longer, I should say. We do have water currently. We just don't know how long the boiler is going to last. Maybe the rocks in California.
You're kind calling those rocks.
But I'm not sure if you have, I know you live in Springdale, if you have issues with their water, but that's pretty bad.
I've never seen it like that in my house. We've had plumbing issues.
So that's what we're working on, getting quotes and prices for. That's going to be not a cheap expenditure. Fortunately, we do have hot water for the kitchen as of now.
Jay, that is kitchen and a wing.
A wing restrooms. There's, because we don't have sinks in the classroom, so it's restrooms.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Zangrelli.
Okay, so next is 7.2, which is 3 change orders related to the front lobby project in the amounts of 9,700, and that relates to sanitary sewer work, a credit of $3,346 for deleted work items that are obsolete, and of course 61,000 related to the corrosion that Mr. Zanger, the architect, addressed.
At this point, because of time sensitivity there, I'd like to entertain a motion that we recommend the board approve the following 2 change orders, number 3 and number 4, in the amounts of credit of $3,346, that's credit for deleted work items, and $57,410.48 to the general contractor, $565 to the electrical contractor, repairing the steel columns in the storefront related to the Springdale Senior High School front lobby project. I think it's imperative that we keep that moving as quick as possible. The total item on the agenda would be removing the sanitary sewer. So if somebody would like to make that motion as I read it, I'd like to take action on that today.
I just want to ask a question. Why removing the sanitary? Because we just want to discuss that more.
There hasn't, we haven't really made a final decision on that. The other two, we're not going to turn away the credit. And I'd like to get moving on the storefront project as soon as possible.
I'll make that motion that we add and move on that as worded by Mr. Polino.
Yes.
So this is your 7.2, 7.3?
It's just 7.2. The items under 7.2 were item 3 and item 4. Okay. I'll get that. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
We got a second by Ms. Moretti. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passed. Sorry for interrupting, but I felt that was imperative.
Thank you. So for next week, the board will just see 9,700 for the sanitary sewer lines. Is that correct?
Well, it
Based
depends.
on
What
tonight's
what was
vote.
discussed was potential adjustment to that number. So that's why it wasn't part of what Mr. Polino read.
Okay. So it'll still show up then.
The action item, there may be some changes to the
Okay.
So the amount.
amount.
And I believe we can hold off on that action item. It's not as imperative as.
Right.
Okay, so moving on, we've got pay apps for work completed tonight. And this is pay app 3, and it's a total of $241,018.33 for contractors, the general contractor, in the amount that you see in parentheses. And you see the project pay app as well. Oh, and was this voted on as well?
No.
No.
Okay. If you look at the bottom, I see that. Okay. Next is field turf, which is the pay app number 5, and that's payment as of September 30th in the amount of $171,347.93. And of course, this relates to the turf project. We did meet earlier today, and the paving for the parking, ADA parking, it could be combined with the track in springtime because the weather is more conducive for that at that time. And it could include an expansion of parking as well. Okay, next up is Garland Roofing Pay App. And that's for work related. Yeah, okay. That's good to hear. It's good to proceed. I recommend that the board approve payment to Garland Roofing in the amount of $46,664. And of course, this relates to roofing repairs and maintenance. That was needed with the HVAC project there. And speaking of HVAC, this is the pay app that relates to that work as well. $127,400 and $7,355. And then last but not least, this is just a placeholder for if we get quotes for the boiler or given the repairs that we face it could find its way to 7.7. And that's the finance report.
I have a question on the HVAC installation and everything. And, I do want to commend, Jay and his crew, and you, Dr. Rajgopal, for getting that outlined and getting it all taken care of. Now, we will have a maintenance schedule for that, so, because it's all coming in at one time and it's all going to go bad at one time. So do we have a maintenance schedule that will you have checked or tweaked or whatever you need to do with that?
Yes.
Unplug it, plug it back
We
in.
have contract with combustion service for that, twice a year doing filters, lubricant systems, and plus the maintenance guys do their checks. We do that every month just to make sure that the filters are in good shape and are actually changed.
Good, thank you.
Can you explain the additional roof cost with the HVAC? How and why that occurred, or was that?
Garland roof, we have a warranty with them.
You might want to come down there, please. Sorry about that.
The additional roof cost was for all the holes they had to penetrate through our roof, and Garland is the company that provides the roof and our warranty. If another company would have came in and done it, they would have avoided the warranty, which they did do the B wing, and we had leaks. They had to send a company out, and Combustion did reimburse us for all the work that they had to do on the B wing side last year. And we were asked by Garland, please don't have another company cut holes in the roof. So they did explain it to us during one of the pre-construction meetings that we had to call Garland. They sent a company to do all the holes, which was kind of unexpected because we didn't realize that they were going to say, please don't use another company.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You all done, Doc?
Yeah, I said that was the finance report.
All right, that's good. Let's move on to education. Mrs. Ecker, would you, do you have a report, or would you like our coordinator of curriculum instruction, Mrs. Vecchio, to go?
I had a couple little things, but you want to go first?
Please do.
Okay, I was just gonna congratulate our kids on a couple things that
Awesome, let's do it.
might not be in my category, but I'll take it anyway. I just, congratulations to this year's senior high school homecoming court. Haley McCluskey, Abby Harvey, Ariana Alta Garone, I think I said it, Lacey Shondek, Cambra Firsch, Brennan Mate, Ben Spencer, Joe Lobig, Connor Krebs, and Casey Dale. The 2025 Homecoming King and Queen will be announced Friday, October 17th at the Dynamo football game. And the Acrotonia Elementary celebrated their National Custodian Day on October 2nd by decorating the custodian closet doors. I thought that was cute. With a special message for each of them, the custodians were sent a big thank you for all they do. And the National Honor Society induction ceremony will be October 15th, 6 o'clock in the Marshall Auditorium. And the next education committee meeting will be October 29th, which it's Wednesday at the 29th at 6 o'clock. And that's it.
Is it a Halloween theme committee meeting?
Think about that.
No treats. Good evening, everyone. We do have two items on the agenda tonight. The first one is the Title I school-wide plan. If you take a look at that plan, it is put together. It opens September 1st. It is due now to the state. It needs to be reviewed by the board and the affirmation signed by a vote and then uploaded for state review. With that being said, the state does identify some areas of improvement, and you'll see those areas listed there, and then we build a plan from there. So you actually heard a few of the items in Dr. Graysick's goals, one of them being MTSS, continuing to dive deeper in the elementary, getting into tier 2 and tier 3 MTSS process, as well as it was recommended that we look at a district-wide MTSS program. Although the high school is not under Title I, they did say if you're doing it here, it should continue into the well, they said middle school and high school. So we actually included that as part of our plan. With that being said, we also, where the recommendation was looking deeper into our mathematics process through K through 2. We talked a little bit about this already, having more tactile learning, moving away from straight memorization, but having students use manipulatives for their learning process in the K through 2. We are working with the AIU for support and professional development, as well as our math coach here at Acmatonia, and that's where our support has been since the beginning of the year, is that K through 2 process. Also, attendance also popped again, and we know that we're not alone in the attendance fight, but it is also a concern. With that being said, our goal was set last year to improve attendance, and we did see some marketed improvement, especially with families that didn't realize the impact of attendance on student achievement and just being in school and the socialization and how important it really is for their child. With that being said, we are continuing the process we did last year. We made some tweaks with the mentoring program. We included the high school as well. And then our goals will can steady to move forward. All right. So those are the 3 large items. We actually had to break it down, and there's a lot of information in that process. You can see what was considered, what wasn't considered, what's already in place, where are we emerging. So if you actually go through that plan, it lays it all out. Looks a little awkward when it prints for you, but on the screen, it looks very organized. And then we get into what are the goals, how are we measuring, and then we have to provide quarterly updates for that to the state. So that's everything that's in the plan. Okay. The other thing we actually have for you is the Title I non-pub affirmation, which just simply states that we do receive Title I money for non-pub school services. Those would be schools within our district, like Chesapeake Christian Academy, and those students who attend schools within our 10-mile radius. We do have another school in Aspinwall that also receives students from our school district. So there are portions of our Title I that are set aside for AIU services. We choose the AIU to provide those services for reading and math intervention. Goals are set. If there are students in those schools that receive those services, we have funds set aside from our Title I that have to pay for those services. And all that information says is that we agree to pay for the services that are with the funds that are already set aside. That was a long way around. Sorry about that. But sometimes people are like, I know what it means. I kind of don't understand how that works. We are aware of what students and who attends those schools. We are also notified by the IU and by those schools who are receiving services and what their goals are and how they are monitored. And I actually go and do site visits at both of those schools as well. Okay. All right. We do have 2 administrators with us this evening. We have Dr. Holler and Mr. Hevner, who will give you reports. Dr. Holler?
Thanks, Ms. Becchio.
Good evening. A couple quick things. Again, the audit December 1st. So we're plugging away on that. The AIU will be providing a training either October 24th or October 30th for some of our staff members. Some of our staff members. We also have the 339 guidance plan due in November. So we're working on that with the guidance department. And then we just recently had an article published in the Valley News for our ESL program. Ms. Cosme is doing a phenomenal job. So if you didn't see it, check it out. And then we have a survey that's out right now for Rachel's Challenge, 5th through 12th graders. Information went out in the Friday Focus. If anybody wanted to opt out, that was an option for them. So.
Thanks, Doc. Thank you.
Mr. Hevner?
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to inform you tonight about our school security drill that'll be coming up. Mr. Leviska will be having his tomorrow morning at 8:30. Acmatonia is on Thursday, October 9th. The focus for ACME is looking at the secure, hold, and lockdown procedures through Centegix. And again, we will have that will start around 9:45 in the morning. And then we will move into the other phases of that drill.
I did ask the teachers to review the procedures that I gave them a month ago. We did have a meeting about the procedures that I'm looking forward to see unfold during the drill. Also, we always ask them if they need extra support to let me know before the drill date. Some things that I asked also for the staff to do is some pre-drill activities. And we are not evacuating for this drill, but we are talking about it and with discussion with our students. They'll be taking some trips to the evacuation sites and talking about the evacuation procedure if they need to do so. And then also during this time, it's important that we talk about the Allegheny Valley School District bullying policy and have a bullying lesson with our students in regards to that policy and what it means. That's basically in a nutshell. Ms. Moretti, you're definitely invited to come see
I'm
it.
gonna get there. Bruna informed me I have to get up early, so
Okay.
no sleep until 10 o'clock tomorrow.
And Ms. Sarno, if you're able to.
I'll
sure.
confirm
Yeah.
times with you and see if I can. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hebner. Let's move on to technology. Mrs. Polovich, do you have anything?
Just two technology-related agenda items on this month's agenda in regards to a contract with BMI for music licensing. This contract provides blanket protection for the district to use copyrighted music at public events and other group activities. Mr. Hoffman has reviewed the agreement. The cost is $374.46 per year. This is a one-year agreement. And also a proposal for a new phone system from Full Service Network, or FSN. This proposal will replace the phone system entirely and add many features. This one agreement is all-inclusive, meaning it covers telephony service, phones, phone system servers and switches, and continuous maintenance and support. Over its 5-year term, the district will save $31,910. For more details, we have Google Slides from the presentation from the tech committee meeting that was held. This includes a supplemental agreement that essentially voids our commitment to our existing contract with FSN and upgrades it with this new one. I think that's all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mrs. Polovich.
Thanks.
Mr. Main, do you have anything that you would like to add?
The reason, just so the community knows why we're doing that, is the other service provider no longer supports, right?
The reason for the change in service providers, Mr. Plino was asking.
Just so-
There's several factors. The big one is that the manufacturer of our current system has essentially left the market in terms of creating new hardware, manufacturing new hardware, so we cannot buy any parts, replacement, anything. They've also announced the end of support and maintenance for any existing hardware that we may have or anywhere in the world. That support ends in December.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Main.
It's cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Good job.
Technology.
Good job.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Main. Let's move on to personnel. Ms. Moretti, do you mind going through the?
Sure, thank you, Dr. Grayson. Tonight, the board is going to be asked to approve independent volunteers for the 25-26 school year so that the families can chaperone upcoming field trips. All the required clearances are received by the business office and everyone is good to go. We will accept with regret the resignation of Mark Gisler, the technology education teacher at the high school, and will ratify the winter sports positions. And these actions will ensure our staff and volunteer needs are met for the upcoming seasons and school activities.
Thank you, Mrs. Moretti.
Do you want me to read that motion? on
Would you-
10.2?
Please.
Okay. So item 10.2, recommend the board approve the following independent volunteers for the 25-26 school year. I hate to say as listed, but there's quite a few of them, so.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Donna. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion passed.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Murdy, would you like me to read through the rest of personnel, or would you like to?
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Item 10.3 is the resignation of Mark Gisler. We want to thank him for his service to the Allegheny Valley School District. Item 10.4 is the employment of athletic staff. It is actually a blend of ratifying winter sports staff and also getting track and volleyball on to be approved for next month. So it's a blend of two, which is why you see ratify next to some of the names, and then the remainder of the names, ratify is not there, so it's a blend. Item 10.5, employment of supplemental staff. Elizabeth Bicking, stage manager, Becky Dyer, newspaper, and Andrea Sadowski, National Honor Society. Any questions on any of those items? Let's move on to number 11, emergency management. Ms. Sarno?
I was just going to mention the security drills with Mr. Hefner already mentioned, which is great. And I will reach out to the committee about if we're going to meet in October or November. I think things got a little hairy in October with us moving dates and then the conference. And so it may be either later in the month or early in November instead. But we'll get everybody's calendar aligned. That's it.
Thanks, Ms. Sarno. Let's move on to athletics and student activities. Ms. Polovich, do you have anything? You're the sole committee member here.
I did not have anything sent to share. Sarno has something she'd like to share.
I just wanted to mention that, I'm sorry, I should have sent it over to you, but I thought about it just while we were sitting here. One, that tickets for the fall play are available. You can order them online. The Springdale Drama Club, I think they posted on their Facebook. It might be on the website already, or might be soon. But that information will be forthcoming. I can also forward that to the board. And also, I can't remember if it was mentioned, because I don't think we had this information yet by last month, but both of our soccer teams have qualified and clinched their playoff positions. And I'm just going to knock on wood and fingers crossed for girls volleyball. And if you've not been to a ladies volleyball game, you should go. It's scary. It's like you will be holding your breath the whole time, but it is really something to watch. So I've been excited to go to a couple of those games. It's been exciting. So really rooting for them. But sorry,
That's okay.
I should have sent those to you.
We could mention we now have our huddle cameras up and running, so we can probably sharing out information soon about how families can
So,
log in.
With Huddle, are they only live or can you watch it after? Like, can we watch tonight's game later?
I believe you
Yeah.
can. And
Either
our sports
highlights or
teams-
the whole game.
Okay.
And our sports teams can use it also for reviewing film and
Yeah,
things
whatever.
like that. So
Check out the link.
Yeah.
I have a question about athletics. We had postponed the Friday before's game, and then this Friday we played the game. And according to, I hate to say, social media, there were the same number of kids available the week we postponed as played on this past Friday. So I was just curious as to what was the difference between the two, that we didn't postpone Fridays as well as the week before.
I'll ask Mr. Lubisky and I'll get back to you.
Thank you. And secondly, I don't know if it has to do actually with the athletics, but a lot of vehicles seem to like to park around the concession stand area. So when you're walking in on that sidewalk, there's some vehicles there, and I can understand, of course, the ambulance and the fire equipment and that, but do the other vehicles need to be there? For example, like, the referees, they seem to like to park on the grass there. Just wondering if I thought they were going to be parking behind the D-wing and arrangements made. However, I don't know. It's just that seems to be congested area there. And with vehicles there too, it doesn't provide that openness.
I'm not following exactly. Are you,
Like,
cars are parking by the concession stand or like what, where we want to put in ADA?
Like right next to the concession stand. I noticed it at the soccer game last night
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that.
It's like three
Yeah,
or
it's
four
more
cars.
so at the soccer games, but
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic by the concession stands. I don't see why we can't park them along the fence.
Where the ADA parking is especially going to be, I think would be appropriate.
well, even that, because I know like, some of it is, people dropping stuff off at the concession stand and then they're just leaving their vehicle there. Go park in the parking lot. You don't need to
But
be on.
for the referees, though, I think it's.
Yeah, the referees is courtesy.
Walking,
Correct.
potentials of incidents
Well,
occurring.
that's very
That would
true.
be
That's very
better
true.
For them to stay near the fence line, maybe where the ADA parking.
Yeah, there seems to still be plenty of room down, even when it's pretty full at the ADA section.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we
Yeah.
could even make a second row or something if needed, but I did notice that last night as well. Sorry.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, let's move on to policy and legislative affairs. Ms. Moretti, Ms. Ecker, I believe you have a little
I
presentation.
do have a presentation tonight. This is very exciting. 'Cause I'm teaching myself how to do AI stuff and all that, so I'm going to attempt that way.
Look at this. All right, let's do it. You have hard copies as well, so this is the presentation and this is backup for it.
Grand entrance. I don't want to have my back. This side.
Gonna have to wing it then.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'll just introduce, back in February, the board asked in August, the board asked the policy committee to check into commercial activities due to some questions from the community and different booster groups. So we have spent many hours researching and coming up with a plan, see how it relates to policy, and to get some guidelines out there so that it makes it convenient for those that want to advertise on our fields. Okay, so that's just the introduction to it there. So the committee progress to date, we've met to share and discuss research, what else? We collaborated with the administration, Mr. Dan Grill, Dr. Brasic, Dr. Rajgopal, everybody was had hands in it. If you haven't, let me take your name down because I'll get you on this. You don't want to leave anybody out. We reached out to local printing businesses. I know Mrs. Ecker made at least one personal contact with the local business in Farmer Township. And then we prepared, our PR director, Mrs. Galgan, prepared a sample guidelines pamphlet. And this was taken from from documents used by the other districts. Some of them being very large, some of them comparable in size. Something the committee felt is, for the board to decide the cost of advertising. We've seen advertising costs anywhere from 500 to 3,000. So, we're trying to determine how many
Bless you.
signs we should put up there, based on the size of the sign, where they will be put. So that'll be something. And then, we did notice some of them have like 3-year agreements. So instead of just going with 1 year in and out, we're looking for a 3-year commitment. So each year there you will have your advertising on. So here we were deciding what is a good size. Currently, the Lower Valley Little down on the Lampus field, their signs are 3 by 5, but some of them can vary. Some of them, different things will be 4 by 6. Some are smaller, larger. So again, that is something for the board to decide how big. And again, through conversation with Mr. Zangril, to measure the fence, but we don't want to distract the players, of course. We don't want to distract spectators. We don't want them reading signs first watching the play and everything. So we want to be mindful of all that as we're considering the signage. Okay, now this is going to I'm going to flip through these. This is what the guideline example would look like. Again, there's a lot of things to be done with it. And as you can see in red, I highlighted things that I saw. It just gives a brief overview of why do it, what the responsibilities are from ours, and of course, then the partnership agreement to sign. Again, you have, I don't know if we can put that on, that would be proper. It's too soon. I think it's too soon. I'll answer all the questions.
I've been there.
And of course, with everything, there are risks and concerns. So we always know what's the worst that can happen and what is the best that can happen from. The best thing, of course, would be the partnerships we would get from the local businesses. We are able to support them through allowing their advertisements, and they in turn support our district through the cost of the signage. Then the guidelines will become an attachment to policy 913.1 commercial activities, just to make sure that we're, all in order with, that policy, that it encompasses everything we could possibly think of, that the worst that. The potential benefits, it would be additional funding, not only for athletics, but any programs that might come about beyond what is already available. Many times we hear this executive give examples of, when we hear this program that's an incentive for kids, this will help increase math scores, English scores, things like that. So those kind of programs, well, maybe we didn't quite budget for them. We always have reserve funds. That's not a problem. But the advertising could help with that. Again, there's some things that a team might need, beyond, what is budgeted. An example would be if a student is in need of a special helmet for football, things like that. So that those funds would be used for things like that. I know we just ran into a situation with the uniforms. There was some glitches with that. So again, these funds could be used to replace the uniforms that were unacceptable. Like I had mentioned, we would build stronger community and business partnerships. We would learn from them, they would learn from us, and we could promote each other. And it provides access to new technology and services. So as we learned, the company that this sector visited, the printing outfit in Farmer Township, it's called Philmet. I lived here my whole life and I didn't know that existed. So that was really nice learning about that and see what services they. Then, of course, you learn from tried and success, or tried and failure. So we, of course, reached out to other districts, like, what did you try and work, and what did you try and just failed at? We don't like to fail at anything. Allegheny Valley, we are right on. So we saw that there needs to be clear limits on advertising exposure. We need to have transparent contracts, so there are no gray areas. This is what's acceptable, this is what's not. There is school code, school law that also governs a lot of those things. And then, of course, with the policy committee loves to review policy regularly. Of course, this one we'll get community input. Do you think there's too many signs? Do you like the signs? Do we want the signs to be uniform? Things like that. And of course, the staff, the coaches, things like that. We do want input. Then who's going to oversee this? Well, isn't this just fun? So not only, our administrators to do all the academics, but, we're also adding an added task, to just kind of monitor the activities, they would be responsible for getting the application for the signs for advertising. And then, the committee and the administration would then go ahead and approve just those things. So for the next steps, we need board approval, of course, for the cost, for the placement, for the pamphlet. We need to finalize and adopt district-wide policy. And we need to contact local and corporate sponsorship. We've already reached out, we've been reached out to from some of the boosters who have contacts out there that do want to participate in advertising. So we'll, jump on those, and anybody else, would advertise through the website and word of mouth, of course. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs.
If
Moore.
anybody has questions, comments, Amy or Marielle, do you have anything to add?
Just that I was at one of the earlier meetings where these were discussed, and I mean, it was a blank slate. Like, we certainly didn't have, we were looking at versions of this from other school districts. This is so nice. I really love how many different opportunities there are. Like, there's, the standard banners and those things, but I really love the program sponsorships, the scholar athlete program, like that idea of like $1,000 per season, and the athlete assistance contribution, I think there's just some really neat ideas that, a lot of different organizations, and clearly we have businesses we didn't even know existed. So, I think it's just going to really, I feel like there's going to be other benefits than just that.
And this looks pretty clean. I mean, when we looked at some of the examples that other schools were doing, it was like a lot of information. Like, if you wanted to actually be a donor or something, it was kind of like so much to look at. And we said we wanted to keep it simple, keep the agreement simple, and easy to look at, the pamphlet that you put together. And
Yeah.
I think that, keeps it nice, keeps it easy for them too, for the buyer.
And we wanted this to be met, of course, as always. Mr. Hoffman will be getting this plethora of documents, have his team review. So I thank everyone very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Mrs. Moretti, while you're getting situated, would you like me to read through the items for under policy?
Yes, please.
Item 13.2, we have policy review, second reading. And those policies are listed below: 626, federal fiscal compliance; 626.1, travel reimbursement, federal programs; 827, conflict of interest. Ms. Brady, did you have anything else to add there?
No, the policies that are on there for second reading are the ones that Dr. Raj Gopal had referenced in her operations finance report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Under,
That includes policy.
thank you, Ms. Murray. Under discussion items, we do have one item, and that is the multi-purpose field next steps. Any thoughts on what we should be doing or want to consider? I can tell you, for example, we had a meeting this morning with Field Turf about ADA parking. So the permits are now submitted to the township. A plan is submitted to the township. However, as we looked at it, there's a stretch of grass along that fence that could potentially be used for parking to help alleviate some of the issues with parking along the road that our community has experienced. We might be able to pull some of that parking inside. So one thing that I would like us to consider, I did include this, it's the last handout that I gave you. It's black and white. It's a map. What I'd like us to consider, rather than only doing the ADA parking, consider a bigger project. If you look where ADA parking is at the bottom right, as you're looking at the paper, it's in white. Above that is the words additional parking idea. That's where the batting cage is. That's where the entrance to the baseball field is. It's almost like a natural place to park, and that may help some of our residents, community members, dynamos with some of those parking challenges that we're facing on the street and off of Butler Logan there. So really looking for some direction with that. Field Turf said they would not be breaking ground until November, which means really wouldn't do much. However, if you do need that parking, it would be available. And also to see what our additional thoughts are in terms of, do we want to put bleachers in? Do we want dressing rooms? And to get some direction from the board so that we can move ahead in a timely fashion to make sure whatever our wishes are for that space can be addressed.
I have a question about the parking. Like, of course, now what we learned about the sewer issue tonight, this might negate that, like the placement and I don't know, being like, 20 feet underground or whatever. But I guess when I was looking at the parking lot last night, if we look up at the spectator drop off now, commonly known as the James Street Circle, and there's also like our giant hillside that's just grass. Like there's a lot of empty space there. I know nothing about construction or sewer lines or anything, but like it just seems like, I don't know, instead of taking up space down at the baseball field and practice field and whatever, which I agree to, there is a lot of space there. But like, is there space just to like keep expanding our main parking lot? Is that like a really dumb question? But like just going into the hillside, like the James Street Circle is barely used. We now have the whole thing painted anyway. No one can park there anyway. Like they used to. Like, what purpose does it serve? Those old steps are old. That sidewalk's awful. Like, can't we just like push again? Like, I don't know, what kind of what problems that
We
causes.
actually talked about that when the contractors that are working up with the bathroom, because there's that level area. And that's one of the things that we need to start exploring, not having any kind of solution or anything from the borough at this point, whether anything's done or not. We need to at least get some numbers in place, and that's going to require us to get architects to kind of come in and look at, what we may want, need, have to do. We moved bleachers from the baseball field down. We've got to replace those. And moving them back and forth is just not a feasible option. We need to know, kind of start getting some ballparks. There has been no plan for a stadium or anything like that up to this point. So, but without options and the things that we need to deal with, if we put in bleachers, they make bleachers where you have locker rooms and things like that underneath. Again, we're talking additional plumbing issues, bathrooms. Do we have to expand the bathrooms that are there? So these are all things that I think what we need to do is direct the administration at this point to, let's start with some design proposals that are going to give us some ideas of what we may or may not want to do down there. Again, where we're at, we can't really stay stagnant at this point. We're being forced at this point to make some decisions of what the future is going to look like there. We have property down below the field. Well, would be convenient that you got to walk up a set of steps or that to the that area up there, but other schools have it worse than we've been through. So you may be able to put parking down there. So we got to look at all the properties that we have and just start saying, okay, if this is what we need to deal with, if these are the cards, what are the kind of costs that we're going to incur? How are we going to fund it? The expenditures and things like that. So I would think our first step is to get somebody to work with us on layout plans, have one of the committees talk about, the structures and sizes of what we want that field to be if we have to go down that route.
The area that we own beyond the fencing for that, could that be an area to put the locker rooms
There's
down in there?
Yeah, there's a lot of different options
Yeah.
there, but again, that those are things that I think we can say, hey, that's what we want, but I think it's better to have somebody take all this information. I can't tell you how many acres we have down there. I know that it runs down the field quite a bit. You got to get topographical math to say what it's going to take to do something there. But I think once we get some generic proposals, then we start tweaking what it is we're looking for. Do we put something under a set of bleachers? The way those bleachers is designed where you can have, locker rooms or something like that there. Again, but I think our first step is, from my point of view, it's like, you got 1,000 ideas that run through my mind, but, when you get into permitting, again, look what we had to do with the drainage with the field and things like that. There's a lot of issues we're going to need to deal with. And I think that's what we need to do. Obviously, we have to say we need additional seating there if we're going to end up, if that's going to be the permanent structure there, we've got to make it more
Yeah, I think
comfortable.
like getting like that full, like you said, like knowing how many acres and just looking at all the space. I mean, I'm also wondering, it's like we keep talking about phase 2, but is it really phase 2, 3, and 4? Is it phase 2, part A and B and C? Like, to me, as I sat, as I've been at soccer games and football games now, like, it seems like the most pressing thing to me is like where that press box is. That's very awkward. It needs to be moved up. And then like, we obviously need more bleachers and better bleachers. Like, to me, that's like really like, we got to get that going like if we can for next year. But then, right, like long term, like, and I guess like just looking in our assessment of things, like, I feel like we've been to some schools where like they don't have the locker rooms by the field. They just use the ones up, they use the ones up at the school and walk down. So it's like kind of looking at all of that. But, I understand.
I don't know if we run into issues like if we increase our stands.
Then we have to have
do
bathrooms
provide
anyway.
more,
Yeah.
bathroom facilities.
Right,
I can't
right.
answer that,
Watch them
you know.
toilets.
What's that?
Yeah.
You have to watch the toilet come, which we learned through the auditorium.
So
But
that-
yeah, I'm in favor of moving forward and
Right.
finding out what we need to find out.
We need to talk about the fencing as well. I know, a lot of that fencing is rusted and everything, that we see the view of the nature out there. And, we should replace that fencing. And then I think, Mr. Flaney, you and I have brought up about where the ADA parking is to make that a gate, so that people will come in and out that way to avoid, pedestrians, walking into the field. Then there would be an in and out right there with that.
Yeah, back on the parking just one more time, because I mean, it seems like, we haven't like made any final decisions about the ADA parking even like, I mean, I can't remember if we had already decided this or not, but it's like, couldn't you make, especially if we had said, oh yeah, actually let's expand parking the other way, like ADA spots in the main parking lot and then have like an accessible walkway to cross the street? Like, does it have to be across the street? Like,
Well, I
you know what
think-
I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, how
but
close
the-
does it have to be to the field?
It's not close, it's the ADA requires a certain percentage of slope on
Yeah.
a ramp.
Okay, that's what
And
we don't
without
have.
going all the way up the road, it would be very difficult to put that kind of ramp there. So, it, either it's one of those zigzag things or whatever, it starts to
Yeah.
get cost prohibitive. And I don't think anything on that field. I mean, that section that we're looking at really doesn't get used.
No.
And it is
Yeah.
perfect for ADA type,
Yeah.
the referees possibly, and things like that, people that have to,
Yeah.
be there. So,
I do agree with looking at where the gate or the entry is because it does get a little
Definitely.
dicey with people walking into the same place where you're driving. Like it
yeah, we
was
definitely
a little
want to
weird
move
last
that.
night. Yeah.
We want to create another access point. There is an access point down by the baseball field.
Yeah.
So, again, it's about where do we do it, and that's
Yeah.
what brought up the idea of, hey, we have all that space all the way along there, so it may be advisable to do that. But I mean, from your point of view, the first thing to do, I mean, is sitting down with an architect, or do you have any other suggestions on what you're looking for?
I was jotting ideas down and we've debriefed. One, the parking that we have is more than many schools
Yeah.
provide. I like the fact that we're willing to provide more parking to help our community. So one, what I'm hearing is additional parking. Where is a good place for that? Press box, possibly changing or locker room, bleachers, fencing, and then whatever is done with ADA parking or additional parking along that area to keep the cars away from people coming into the events. Those are the things I heard, and those were the main items in addition to lighting along the path there. So as you go down into the stadium from the main gate. So those are the only things I can think of offhand. Jay or anybody, anything else stand out to you in terms of what we were feeling some of the needs would be for that area?
You need to look at the entryway and how that's your having tickets purchased. And I know Tom said there's some safety concerns there. So you might want to bring him on this conversation.
Yeah, they definitely need to have a more controlled entrance point
Yeah.
than we do now. Especially with the way the kids tend to try to run around around the side there. It's kind of.
They do. And I know we had a no entry, at the other field. And like, I don't see that now, so I think we need to, rethink that. Do we want to move where you buy your ticket closer to the actual entrance onto the whole facility? And, work with that, but I don't know if that's phase 2 or if that's B or C or 4 or 5, who knows? Another thing, we have the Colfax property, if we need a place to put locker rooms, we could.
And again, that's something that we need to explore, what options we can and can't do there.
Well, right,
So,
right. And I know we've been approached, can we put some kind of a pavilion? A lot of the groups, they like to have meetings, and if it's nice weather, they would be able to meet under a pavilion then, or, even for community use, you can have not rent it out, but, to use for that. So, those are things, I think about with that property.
and with the, I mean, I know we talked about advertising to raise additional funds, but, a lot of the other schools have other organizations that use their turf fields, which could be something to look into as well. Obviously, that means a little more maintenance on our part, but, again, it's something that needs to be evaluated.
Yeah, I know we talked about that, like reaching out to the turf installers to see if we would allow other groups on there. Like, how does that wear and tear affect the longevity, the lifetime of the turf?
Yeah, obviously, the more things you do on it, I think they said it was a 15-year to 20-year type lifespan on those things. That's with probably normal use. I don't think that would be considered a school district. It's doing abnormal use at this point. We're probably, they even indicated that it would probably be a lot longer because of, what we have.
Right.
But again, those are maintenance things, and if you're generating revenue from that, it's not
You
like
use
you
that,
just,
yeah.
just that's part of that overall maintenance thing. So
That's a big moneymaker for a lot of other districts. I think
Yeah.
Plum and they, between hosting playoff games for various sports and rugby
Cup
leagues
teams
and
and
lots
other
of
work,
different
yeah.
things, yeah.
right then. Anything else you need on that?
I don't, I'm good, thank you.
At this point, unless there's any other board discussion items? Seeing none, we'll open it up to any community members that have any comments or issues they'd like. Please come up, state your name, where you're from.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Danley. I live on Linden Street in Cheswick. Both of my daughters attend elementary school here. My oldest daughter, Audrey, is in 4th grade. She's losing her teacher for the rest of the year, which is why I wanted to come speak with you all. I wanted to say that I'm very disappointed that Audrey's losing Miss Burns, not just because she loved her and they really bonded, but I believe Miss Burns is a very impactful teacher. I think she's a great educator, and I think it's a shame that, Audrey and her classmates are going to lose her, especially like the math skills and things like that, just the way she's handled instruction. I've been very impressed. I do want to say that I have complete confidence in the other teachers that Audrey has, specifically Miss Newell and Miss Rhodes. I believe them, along with Mr. Hebner, who's been very communicative. I think they'll do everything they can to minimize any impact that, Audrey and her classmates will face with this. But I do have some questions, but I didn't want to just come in and say, well, I'm mad. I looked at the last 4 years of audited financial statements for the district. And I want to commend the board and the administration. It seems like a tremendous job managing the financial health. A quick glance at it looked like it was about a $4 million deficit in 2021 in net position. It's like a $6 million surplus now. The general fund is over $10 million with 1.3 unassigned. Excuse me. All the CapEx stuff that you guys have talked about, all the things you're doing have been funded through reserves. There's not been additional debt taken on. It seems like really sound stewardship of the financial position of the district. So my question, and also I tried to look apples to apples surrounding districts, Highlands, Freeport, Deer Lakes, Riverview. It seems like everybody spends between 62 and 67% on, we'll call it education. It's teachers, classrooms, additional guidance stuff. So we're right in line there. My questions are not just, I'm mad that we're losing a teacher, but, while I'm disappointed that we're shuffling people around, are there any steps being taken to find new teachers or retain the ones we have? Are we getting candidates that we can't come to terms with? Or are we just not seeing enough candidates? Obviously, I know there's a, teacher shortage statewide and things like that. But my question really is, we've had this very strong financial management and growing reserves. Is there been a discussion, or will there be a discussion to deploy any of that capital to retain teachers and hire new ones? Because the field's great, all that stuff's wonderful, but we've had ongoing teacher shortages here for years. And like I said, I know it's a common thing statewide, but I wanted to know if there were any discussions as far as using some of that financial strength for specifically hiring and retaining teachers. Thank you.
Sir, what did you say your name was again?
My name is Ben Daly.
Mr. Daly. You can have a seat. I'll do my best to answer your questions. In terms of the steps taken to replace those open positions, particularly at the high school, The business teacher has what's called a BCIT certification. There are not a lot of people with that certification. We were down to 2 candidates. One had taken a position somewhere else, and then we brought another candidate in on a trial basis to see if he's someone that we would want to hire. I think his second or third day here, he came in and said, I was hired somewhere else. We are on at least 5 to 6 different sites / apps. What had happened was timing created a very complex situation for us, and the certifications at the high school. Biology is not a wildly popular certification. In addition to not a lot of teachers being out there, the BCIT certification is one, and then also the technology position. We have teachers with those certification, which is what caused that moving around. And I truly am sorry that that's causing angst and worry for parents and for kids. That's not what we want to do here in a school district. It's the last thing we want to do. However, knowing that we needed certificated people in those positions, there were moves that we were able to make. I know that's not a great excuse. In terms of deployment of money to retain teachers, the teachers, actually all of our groups are under contract. So they negotiate those contracts. They ask for certain things. We offer certain things. We have talked about ways to retain teachers. However, that's nothing I could share publicly other than to say we need to do something. And there's a lot of people in similar situations. Again, we're worried about Allegheny Valley, so it really doesn't matter what's going on in other places. Have those teachers, and we encourage people to reach for the stars. So if they want to work somewhere else, we don't discourage someone from trying to go somewhere that they think is going to be better or make them happy. But what happened was the timing of it was awful. It was beginning of the school year. And these are 3 positions where those certificates are really hard to come by. It's really nice to hear about your child's relationship with Mrs. Burns. Many kids feel the same way. Mr. DeSalle is the 6th grade teacher that's moving on to the high school. There are many kids that really love Mr. DeSalle, as well as Ms. Burns. The upside, if you want to look at it that way, is she'll be in 6th grade. So the kids will get to have her in 6th grade versus now. And also Mr. DeSalle, if they have a relationship with him, will be at the high school. So that's the reason why the steps were taken. Also, there's one class in particular at the high school. It's personal finance that kids have to take as a graduation requirement, and we needed someone there. So we're in the process of emergency certifying some of our paraprofessionals that have a degree but is not in education, and we are also opting to move people around. But in essence, it was the timing caused a really complex issue that we know has caused some undue feelings for parents that no school district wants to cause that disruption or concern for parents and for kids. So I don't know if I answered your question or not. If you'd like to talk in more detail, I'm certainly available for a phone call, or if you want to stop by my office, Mr. Daly, you're more than welcome to do that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Come on up.
I'm Mallory Howard. I live off of School Street in Springdale. I will not speak as eloquently as Ben did. I do not like public speaking. I emailed all of you this week in regards to this 4th grade shift. I want to speak on the teachers' behalf because I love them. And we're going to miss Mrs. Burns. It makes me this upset. Imagine what it does to my child. Sorry. Anyways, the things that I wanted to talk about, and you did answer a lot of these questions with like the timing of all of this really stinks, and I totally understand that. I think the one thing that when you were speaking, I had a question about would be and I realize you're hiring at the high school level. Why are we not hiring at the elementary level to replace Mr. DeSalle? Maybe have this be a temporary thing where Miss Burns trains someone who may be in his position and she can remain in 4th grade, or we can have more LED people available. I know finding a teacher is a difficult task, but it would maybe be an option. I think the biggest thing for me that when all of this was communicated to us was that one of the 4th grade teachers would be a self-contained classroom. And I really, 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 really hope you change your mind on that. I understand splitting the children up by academic and behavior. However, in 4th grade, the students start to learn rotating to different classrooms for different subjects instead of just being in one classroom with one teacher. And if we're self-containing children based on an IEP or other reasons, you're going to set them up for failure in 5th, 6th, 7th, and so on. And I just think like they all need to have that experience and learn this. Change sucks. Change sucks for all of us, but it's also part of our lives, and we have to adapt to that. And I think just self-containing those kids will not allow that adjustment to happen. So I think that's all I had written down. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to, put out the word that you hire good teachers, and I hope that you can retain them and that this doesn't make their jobs more difficult. So that's all.
We appreciate you guys showing up and letting us know. We really appreciate you coming.
Thanks for hanging in the 2 hours. Impressive.
And also, I'd like to echo your appreciation for our exceptional teachers. It's nice to see your passion and your emotions come through. A lot of times when decisions are made, you don't know the people that are involved, and at first they seem easy, but then when you start meeting the people that are impacted and the kids that are impacted, things suddenly don't become as easy as you had once thought. So thank you for being here.
No other audience comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you all next week. Motion passed.
Thanks, everyone. Be safe.